Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. In this episode, Dr. Karalynn Royster, child psychologist and co-parenting expert, shares her Kids First co-parenting system. You'll discover how to avoid common co-parenting mistakes, protect your child's emotional security, and teach resiliency even in high conflict divorces. Whether you are newly divorced or navigating a challenging co-parenting relationship, this episode gives you practical strategies and hope to help your child thrive. Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Before we start the next conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, The Gift Inside, a powerful guide for healing your body, mind, and soul. Reclaim your strengths and awaken your true potential. Whether you are navigating heartbreak or simply seeking deeper fulfillment, this book offers the tools to turn your struggles into triumphs. It is time to unlock the gift within you. Available now on Amazon, or you can check it out on my website www.irinashehovtsov.com. Hello and welcome. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Karalynn Royster. She is a co-parenting expert, child psychologist, and a mom. She lives in Colorado and is passionate about helping moms navigate challenges of divorce and co-parenting. With years of professional experience as a child psychologist and a deep understanding of motherhood, she specializes in guiding moms through high conflict situations while keeping their children's emotions in focus. Dr. Royster's signature program, the Kids First co-parenting system, provides a high level of support for smart, high-achieving moms who are juggling the very hard job of parenting young children while managing a difficult ex. Her approach helps moms move from feeling anxious to empowered and clear about how to support their kids. Welcome, Dr. Karalynn. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Irina. It's so good to talk to you. I'm happy we were able to make it work. We had a couple scheduling things, but that is life as a mom, you know?
That's
so
right.
I'm very grateful to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
Please
wonderful.
share with us a little bit about your story and how did you decide to pick psychology as your topic?
Yeah. Well, there's like a running joke with psychologists that nobody gets into this by accident, but a lot of us think we do. We're like, oh, I'd just be really good at this. But really, we have some of our own stuff, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. And we tend to sort of get drawn towards our own pain points or things that we've been through. A lot of people that work with certain populations have some lived experience with it. I am no exception to that. I work with children exclusively. I always have as a psychologist, and that's totally my passion. And for a long time, I was like, I don't think it's a good fit for me to work with like high conflict divorce or divorce kids from two homes. It's just really, really hard work. But the universe had other ideas for me. And I just kept kind of circling back to that. And I feel very uniquely positioned around it because I myself am a child from a family of divorce, I guess that's the best way to put it. And I just think I always kind of lived my life by this adage of I want to be the person that I needed when I was younger for kids. And so a lot of my work as a child therapist has focused on kids in these really, really difficult situations. Now, over time, that has gotten harder and harder, and I've had to shift more towards supporting moms with that, right? Because kids in the room and in the playroom can get a lot of benefit out of working out their feelings. Obviously, I'm very pro-therapy. That's half of what I do. But I was hearing from a lot of moms like, but what do I say? What do I do? How do I handle it when they come home and this is going on, right? And so that's the very shortened, even though it felt long, story of how I ended up doing this work.
Of course, sometimes kind of unknowingly we get to step on that path that, what we we needed back then, and you were able to utilize that in your practice. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this reminds me a lot of what I know of your work too. And I think it's, we sometimes think we're supposed to be over here doing something else, and we really want to be over there doing something else. But life kind of keeps pulling you back towards a certain theme. And it's kind of amazing what happens when you start listening to that and walking in your calling,
Yeah, yeah,
as they say.
totally.
Yeah.
What are some common mistakes well-meaning parents make during divorce that can unintentionally hurt their kids?
Yeah. Well, I would say one of the biggest ones that I see is really getting very caught up, and this shows up in a variety of ways, but in feeling as though they've just ruined their kids, right? We made this decision and now they're struggling, and oh my gosh, I'm the worst, right? And so sometimes that shows up as really overcompensating, or like a lack of boundaries, or kind of like spoiling. This is a whole other topic to talk about, spoiling kids, but thinking that they need to make all the pain go away, right? Sometimes that shows up as a lot of anger towards the co-parent, and the kiddos are in the middle of that. Sometimes there's just a lot of worry and concern about how the kids are doing. And this is a big mistake because we know that kids are going to struggle. We know that. It's a major life event. It has these ripple effects about how it impacts you. Children may have to go to different schools or move houses or start splitting their time. So there's many layers to how it impacts kids. And so we know they're going to adjust to that. It's just like any other stressor in life.
Mm-hmm.
We would expect that. That's healthy, right? And so sometimes, I guess that's the second mistake, is seeing kind of normal stress responses from your children and panicking, right? And it
So
does.
what's the difference if you had to specify normal versus?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good one. So what I would say is, your kid, right? And so if there's like this intuitive sense, or if you're laying awake at night and you're like, we are not okay, right? That's important to listen to. So that would be kind of your first clue. More tangible clues, right? Sometimes I hear moms will tell me, like, I just went through this horrible divorce. Like, I don't know what my intuition is anymore, right? They feel like they have lost that. So they got to kind of get back to that. So if you can't rely on that at the moment, you want to look at things like their behavior. So kids tell us how they're doing with some of their major functions, like how are they doing at school? How's eating? How's sleeping? Right? And so when we look for changes in those things, you and I know as moms, they go through little feeding jags, or sleep becomes an issue for a couple weeks. What we're talking about, or what would make us think this is more than just typical stress, is more than usual, more than typical for your child in terms of intensity or duration. So a good example would be something like a tantrum, right? And perhaps tantrums, which are very normal, right? You can typically calm them down. You kind of know the strategies. But now the tantrum is 30, 40, 50 minutes. And it's a lot harder to calm them down. And your typical strategies aren't working. Or in terms of frequency, the tantrum is now happening way more often than it was before, right? Or intensity, the tantrum is now much more maybe aggressive, or we're way more upset, right, than we were before. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. So those are kind of the things that we watch for a lot.
Totally. Thank you. So how can moms support their child emotional security even if the ex is doing the opposite?
Yeah. Even if the ex is doing the opposite, as they often are. So moms and dads, I know some of your listeners are dads as well. What you want to be doing is really building that sense of safety, right? And our kids get to carry that with us wherever they go. And so what this really is attachment, right? We're building a strong attachment relationship with our child, but you can think of it also as emotional safety. And so how do we do that? Well, You show up consistently. You're warm. You're attuned. You listen to their emotions. You listen to their feelings, right? We don't gaslight our kids. If things are really crazy at your co-parent's house, you say that. You say, yes, this is really hard, right? And so the moms that I work with, I call it emotional validation, like on steroids, because it's not just your typical, like, oh, you're sad. I'm sorry, right? It's like, this is really hard and this does really suck. And I'm so sorry we have to keep doing this. Like, it's just, it gets much more complicated in two-parent households. But the big takeaway to keep in mind is control what you can control. Do what you know helps your child when they're in your care, right? And that helps insulate them.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Acknowledging how the person is feeling, not saying you understand it, but just being kind of a compassionate ear and to understand where they are. And then I love that you say, yeah, control what you can control, which is your reaction to a situation, not how somebody is responding, but what you are feeling, what you're experiencing in the moment.
And I think, Irina, what's so tricky is that sometimes your feeling as a parent is different than your child's, right? And that can get really tricky. If in your head you're like, yep, that person is a total jerk and I hate them and they broke my heart and I have so many mixed feelings, and then I'm having to send my kid over there, right? It just gets complicated really, really quick. And so those are good examples of, like, it's so much easier to say, I want my child to have a good relationship with their dad. Let's just use kind of a typical couple in this example. But when you have a hard relationship with that person, that gets really tricky, you know? And so it's a lot easier to say than to actually do and implement, which is why I have a job.
Very well, very well. What's one thing you wish moms knew about divorce and young kids?
That's a beautiful question. I wish they knew how powerful they are. That's what I would say. Because I think not for everyone. There are definitely people that have very civil, very amicable, lovely friendships post-divorce. Those don't happen to be my clients most of the time. They don't need my help figuring out co-parenting because there's a basis of respect. And even better if there's a basis of friendship, right? The moms that I work with, it often are, their exes are very difficult and have made I would say really have a long track record, more than likely, of making the mom feel small and unimportant and belittled and all these horrible things, right? And that pattern continues sometimes after the divorce. It's not like they just decide all of a sudden to treat you with respect when, there's a reason they're not together. And so a lot of times moms are feeling very out of control of what they can change. They're wishing this person was just better, nicer, more civil, less of a jerk, whatever you want to call it. And not just for themselves, but for their kids, right? And so there's a lot of feelings of just kind of like overwhelm and powerlessness. Like, I'm just stuck in this cycle with this dude forever, right? Because we have a kid together. And a lot of what I wish I could like shake moms and tell them is like, you are so powerful in your child's life. Like, you are the secret ingredient to protecting them from this dynamic. Like, you and your relationship with your child is what insulates them from all of this stuff, whether it's your ex or it's like bullying at school or getting through a stressful time later in life. Like, it's that foundational relationship. And so, like, put your energy there and invest in that, and it will pay off big time.
Totally.
Yeah, you can tell I can talk about that forever.
No, you make very well good points. Yes.
Oh,
yes,
thank you.
So important. What difference between co-parenting, parallel parenting, and nesting, and how can mom choose what's best for their family?
This is a great question because we've kind of been alluding to this a little bit. So all that co-parenting means as a term is that there's two people who have a child, right? That a lot of people say co-parenting, and what they're actually talking about is collaborative co-parenting. It is a type of co-parenting. And so Collaborative co-parenting is what we're all hoping for. That's what the research tells us kids do best with that. That's how, the outcomes are better for kids across basically every factor: school, emotions, behavior, you name it, health, all kinds of good stuff. And so that has almost like a foundation of respect, of civility, right? You may not agree on everything, but you're both very committed to keeping kids out of the middle and very committed to like working things out. So let's use a drop off for an example across these different styles. So someone in a collaborative co-parenting relationship is able to say to their co-parent, hey, look, Friday, I'm going to have a work meeting. It's going to go really late. It's going to be really hard for me to get there by 6 o'clock. What do you think about moving the transition back? Or would Saturday work better for you? And then their co-parent says something respectful back, such as, gosh, we actually have plans, so that's not going to work. Can we maybe, can your mom come? Or can we do a drop off on Saturday morning? Like everything is very above board, kind of about the kids, right? Very business type relationship with a hint of friendliness. Yeah. Parallel parenting is when you may have that respect still for one another. That is possible. Often one person will say it doesn't feel that way. But parallel parenting it's almost like you're picturing yourself on two train tracks and you don't cross. So what happens in one house may not happen in the other, and there's very little communication across the train tracks. Often this is the method that we recommend for moms who have high conflict exes, or dads, I guess, if there's been abuse in the past, if there's somebody that is just really, really conflictual or reactive. It has very high boundaries and very good protections emotionally and legally in the way that you don't really negotiate. Like it's not collaborative. It's kind of like you do your thing, I do my thing. And so let's go back to the transitions example. Something like that happens. You're like, look, I can't get there at such and such time on Friday. And someone in a parallel parenting dynamic might hear from their ex something like, you're always late. This is going to mess up our kids so much. I can't believe that you always put work first. Like it gets really heated really fast. And so it requires a different set of techniques, typically, right? There's a lot of reasons you might opt more towards this strategy. You rely a lot on your parenting plan in this case. So you wouldn't maybe wouldn't even start with, I think I want to change the transition. You would just say like, the parenting plan says that I have until 6. I'll be dropping off closer to 6 or whatever. Nesting is kind of this very unique way of co-parenting. A lot of people do this in the very early stages of separation or divorce. This is like you're just great friends. Typically, you can get along really, really well. You just don't really want to be together anymore. Nesting is where the children stay in one home and one parent flies, get it, like a bird nesting, in and out of the nest, right? So the kids stay there and like one parent stays there during the week and then leaves. Usually there's a second residence, an apartment that is also shared, but sometimes not. Sometimes it's a friend's house or something like that. As you can imagine, Irina, this requires a really high level of collaboration and friendship and support, because if them not taking the trash out before irritated you, imagine when you don't, but I will tell you the reason I mention it is because I live in a very high cost of living area. A lot of families that I work with in specific to my region, it's like, we can't afford 2 houses. Who can do that? Or they're waiting for the divorce to be finalized and get the finances in order, and then they can do 2 separate homes. But it is a pretty common thing. And certainly I wouldn't say it's common, I misspoke about that. It is an option if you can still have pretty high levels of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a great guide on our website if we can maybe link that. But for like, what style are you? Honestly, when a lot of people hear me talk about it, they're like, oh, yeah, this is definitely where we are. And nesting sounds so great, but like would never work for us or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see most in your practice? What kind of
I see a lot of parallel parenting. Yeah. And I wonder, and I think there's probably a reason for that because, like I was saying earlier, if you're pretty collaborative, you don't usually need a lot of support. You don't need someone to help you like talk about how your kid's doing because you guys can talk about it and work on it. So sometimes I do see those kids in therapy because of a separate issue, not related to like a typical mental health thing, anxiety or ADHD or something like that. The kids that I see for like as a direct result of what's happening at home tend to be in more high conflict parallel parenting. And typically it's one parent saying things like, this is bananas, and we know that our kid is having a hard time with it. Like, I wish it wasn't this way, but it is, and we know they're struggling with it. And so we got to figure out what to do. Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you. Thank you. If there is a mom that's struggling and listening right now, unsure where to start, what's the first one step she can take to protect her kids and get her footing back?
Yeah. Well, the first thing she can do I'll give her 2 steps, is not gaslight your own kid. So what I mean by that is you can own that things are hard, right? And that goes a really long way. You sit them down and you say, listen, things have been a little bit tense. You are not imagining that. That's real. And I don't want to lie to you. There's also a lot happening that's not appropriate for me to share with you. But if you're feeling tension, it's because there's tension, right? The worst thing we can do is be like, we're fine. Everybody's fine. And the kid's like, no, we're not. I heard you crying last night, right? So it's important to really like speak into their lived experience. Okay. And it breaks your heart as a mom because you might want to change it for them. And you might be having all sorts of guilt around, like, this was a choice I made and now they're struggling. Keep all that. We talk about that in the program, how to kind of keep that separate. But to your actual child, you're saying things like, you're right. This is hard. You're right. You're not imagining it. And I see you and it's important and we're going to figure it out together, right? The second kind of more tangible thing is that if one of your listeners is struggling with this, we have so much support at the Kids First program. We have free masterclasses. Almost every month I do a special topic. This month, later today, I'm doing a poison control, like what to do around parental alienation and poisoning. Next month, we're talking about gaslighting. We have a back to school Q&A coming up. I mean, there's all kinds of freebies online. I also have a lovely communication boot camp. It's only $19. It's very affordable. It's a 3-day, like, if I could sit you down and give you 3 steps to kind of get things on track, this is what I would tell you. So that's what that's designed to be.
Thank you. Those are very, very good points. Thank you so much. What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
Ooh, I love this. I think probably resiliency, right? So we really can't protect our kids from everything. And divorce and separation is no exception. But what we can give them is the tools to overcome hard things and to move through it and to process it. And I'm not talking about like just power through and white knuckle it and like push it down. I'm talking about like, how do you really help someone through a stressful time, right? Whether that's a death or a divorce or a trauma of some kind. Resiliency and the tools for resiliency are really what we all need, right? To get through hard times. This is like your whole thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think resiliency is important because
You're like an OG resiliency person. Like, I know your listeners have heard your story, but when you told it to me, I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you're a badass. Like, I'm sorry if I swore on the podcast. I'm not supposed to, but you can bleep it out. But you're resilient. You're resilient. And I think that's amazing, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, I think resiliency is important because it helps us deal with life situations because life will throw things at us. And when we have that resilience factor, we are more prepared, we are more flexible, we
Yes.
don't see everything as black and white, but many shades of gray in between, and we are able to withstand whatever comes away. So I love that resiliency.
Yeah. And like, of course, we don't want bad things to happen to our kids. A lot of people put a lot of energy into like, nothing bad can happen to my kid. And that's really kind of counterintuitive because you and I know the fact is it will. So we need to give them the tools to move through it and not completely like fall apart because they've never had anything hard happen to them, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're
I
right.
think they call that snowplow parenting, where you like go ahead and you like remove all the obstacles so that they just don't have any, you know? And that you might think you're doing right by your kid, but you're really not in the long run.
I think when they get to experience and fail in life in the beginning when they're young, it becomes easier to handle it when they get older.
Yeah. And like you will get your heart broken. Like you will be in the world and life will try to kind of run you down. And if I've never talked to you about hard emotions or sadness or let you have those feelings, it's going to devastate you in a much different way than just your typical, like, this was really hard and someone broke up with me, you know? And of course that's going to devastate you. But how do you move on? How do we raise our kids to be able to like eventually get back out there and try again and take the test again and try to kick the ball again and apply for that college that you didn't get into? You know, like
Yeah,
resiliency, man. It's a big
totally.
one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What inspired you to create the Kids First co-parenting program?
Well, it really came out of my clinical work, right? So much of what I was seeing in my therapy practice was kids really struggling in this situation. And I really thought long and hard about like, how do we help them? How do I get to more kids? How do I get to more families and give them the tools that we know help, right? And so that's where it really came from, was kind of this shift for a big need that I was seeing around moms asking me, like, okay, that's good that he processed his feelings in session, but like, what do I say when he comes home and said, Dad said not to tell you this, you know? Or like, what am I supposed to say when Dad says you had an affair and that's why your mother and I didn't make it? Right? Yikes. And so I wanted to give people the tools to help their kids outside of the therapy practice as well. There's only one of me, you know?
Thank you. I love that. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
Yeah, actually, we've talked a little bit about the Kids First program, and the only piece that I wanted to kind of highlight and maybe speak to, I was thinking about your question before of like, what would you tell moms? And I think the other thing I would tell them is that you're not alone, because I hear so much of that. Like, and isolation can be such a part of a high conflict divorce, like not feeling like you want to talk to anybody about it, or like people don't really get it, or people are literally telling you like, just get along. And it's a very difficult person to get along with. And so I think this alone feeling and feeling very cut off and isolated is really common. And I would say that that's a pretty big part of the program that is helpful, is that there's a group of women. It's not just me, it's other moms going through it. And that's been one of the most beautiful parts of the program, is there's so much mutual support and tools and strategies for one another that just, I'm honestly very humbled by getting to experience and watch. So I would say that you're not alone. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I think it's when we are going through something, we feel like we are the only ones, but when
Yes.
we have that support, that environment, it becomes easier road to go on.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think that's so much of the human experience, right? Is you feel like you're the only one, and it can be incredibly transformational when you realize you're not, right? When someone else gets it.
Yeah, Totally.
Yeah.
Is there a book that inspired your journey that you can recommend, or a book that had a big impact on your life?
I am such a reader, Rena. I like love reading so much. So this is probably my favorite question ever. But I think one of the best books that I recommend over and over to parents, there's a few. One book I want to highlight is Tova Klein's Raising Resilient Kids, just because we were talking about resiliency. This is her newest book. She also has How Toddlers Thrive. And Raising Resilient Kids is really beautiful and good and helpful. And so I think for that conversation, I really enjoyed that one. I'm a very big fan of Bill Eddy's work on the BIF method, which is a way to communicate with high conflict folks. And then, gosh, if I had to pick one, I'm like looking at my bookshelf of my favorite books. I think that for me, the book that really changed the way that I really parent and think about things would be Lisa D'Amour's books, Untangled and Under Pressure, and then The Emotional Lives of Teenagers. Even though I work with younger kids, I just really love her approach and how she talks about meeting kids where they are and treating them with respect and all of those things. So those are some really helpful reads for folks. I also keep a resource list on my website of divorce-specific books for folks. So if there's people that are interested in that, we can get that to you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If people would like to connect with you, learn more about you, where would they go?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm on all the socials except for TikTok because I can't quite figure out TikTok. But I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook at Learn with Little House. And then I have a YouTube channel and an upcoming podcast, which is very exciting. It's called the Kids First Co-Parenting Podcast. So you can find me there. But probably the hub, the place that has all of that is the website, learnwithlittle.house.com. Links to the resources, master classes, all the great stuff. So very easy to find me there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll put everything in episode notes. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for the work you are doing. And it's been incredible. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Irina. I appreciate it.